Oh, hello there, everyone, and welcome to How I Built This Quarantine Edition. I wanted to introduce you to Kiki. She wanted to say hi, but she doesn't really want to stay here too long, so I'll pass her off. Anyway, how is everybody doing? It has been about, I think, 5 weeks since our team has been working from home, and today you probably saw the news about retail sales, which has been not good news. That March was actually the steepest drop in recorded history. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about ways we can all think about building resiliency during this really tough time. We're doing this every Wednesday and Friday with founders and thinkers right here at 12 noon Eastern. So please join us every Wednesday and Friday. Next week we're going to have an incredible week, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. We're also taking your questions, so please submit your questions in the Facebook comment section for our guest today. If you have been listening to How I Built This for a while, you probably know a little bit about our guest today, Gary Erickson. He's joined by his wife, Kit Crawford, who also runs Clif Bar. Gary almost lost the company. If you heard that episode, it's an amazing story. He had to take out monster loans to keep Clif Bar. And today it's the biggest energy bar company in the United States. It is based in Emeryville, California, not too far from where I am here in Oakland. I'm super excited to welcome Gary Erickson and Kit Crawford of Clif Bar to How I Built This Online Quarantine Edition. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Guy.
Thanks.
Great to see you. I wish we could be across from each other, having a meal together like we did a couple weeks ago, right before this thing. So hopefully we'll be back.
Can you believe that?
I know, right? It's crazy. First of all, how are you guys doing? We've been keeping in touch sporadically, but how are you doing in general? How are your families doing?
All good. Just never expected to be doing this. Our kids live in about 100 yards from us, quarantined in a little cottage we have over here. So we get to see him walk around from 20 feet away with his mask on.
Yeah.
Everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the most important thing. Tell me a little bit about your business. I mean, as I mentioned, March retail sales were down across the board in the U.S., except for essential items and certain products. What about for Clif Bar? What's been the situation for you guys?
Well, go ahead, Gary. You tell me.
Well, resilience is a good word for this. I guess we're in a situation where we're kind of lucky. I mean, we know so many businesses, friends of ours that are in the restaurant business, and some of the other businesses that we're really close to. In fact, some of them we've invested in that aren't doing very well right now. In fact, they're completely shut down, and they're trying to figure out like how do they adapt to this and stay alive. And some of them are laying people off. We're lucky. We're an essential food product. Although in one day, on March 12th was the day we decided to close our office, which was before Gavin Newsom put the shelter in place around the state. And it's just in one day, all of a sudden we're out of the office. How do we run a business when 450 people are not in the office, running into each other and having meetings and coffee together, and trying to figure out? So we've been adapting ever since.
Yeah. And we have, it's interesting because we have like sort of two businesses going on. We have our office business, and then we have our essential business, our two bakeries, one in Indiana and one in Twin Falls. And they're essential workers right now. So we're taking care of employees. We're making sure that everybody's safe and healthy, both in Emeryville, California, and in Indiana and in Twin Falls. It's really different, to be able to have to do this right now. It's crazy.
So your headquarters essentially in Emeryville is closed down right now, it's an amazing space. As you know, I've been there, and there's an incredible test kitchen where you're trying out new products and samples. And there's an on-site daycare center. I mean, it's an amazing place, but your manufacturing plants are still operating because presumably there's a demand for Clif Bar. People are kind of want to keep things that are shelf stable and last for a while, I guess. Have you seen a big increased demand for Clif Bars?
We did. There was a pretty good spike at first. We were maybe in third place behind toilet paper and sanitizer.
Wow.
But it's calmed down. I think the uptick has mellowed out a little bit, but we're still, there's demand is high. And also, we know that our product is a really essential food for healthcare workers. So we made a commitment to, so far we've given out in the first part of March, 3.6 million bars to food banks and healthcare workers and Frontline. And then we're on the second round. We're now committed another 3 million through a program we're calling Baked with Love and Sent with Gratitude.
So how are you getting that out to hospitals and to healthcare workers?
Yeah, so we have a community team at Clif Bar because, we run on 5 aspirations. So we have all these different aspirations that guide our business. One of them is sustaining our community. So our community team is always actively involved in any kind of disaster and that kind of thing. So the community team has coordinated with our employees. Our field team, for instance, instead of going to the Boston Marathon,
which is not happening,
right.
We're calling it redeploying them to identify different healthcare facilities in the country that we can give bars to. And so they've been working with our community team in the office, our office work, and then the field team. And so all of our employees are finding these places to give bars to. It's amazing the amount of work that our employees are doing to find this.
Just so you know, I have a friend who is an ER doctor in Oakland, and I gave him a box of Clif Bars for when he goes home at night and is quarantined in his house. So super helpful to have around.
I mean, no question. Like, just a quick story. My best friend, one of my best friends growing up, and is our dear friend now, and his wife Kathy. He's an ER doctor also. His name's Jay. If you turn over the back of the package, the story has he's the guy I was on a bike ride with in 1990 when I came up with the idea to make Clif Bar. He went on to be an ER doctor, and I started Clif Bar. And he said we've talked to him every week. We go like an hour on the phone just telling us what is going on in your world. I can't get into just too long of a story, but he said Clif Bar is the perfect food for what they're going through right now because they just don't have time. They don't have time to sit down. They go from one thing to the next. It's clean, it's safe, it's nutritious. And so we're just super proud and happy that we can keep that business going. We think our bakery people are heroes. They're working, 24/7 right now. And they're safe because it's always been safe at our bakery. They've always gone in, looking like they're in a clean room. Because that's the way we do our business. But we're really proud of them, and we wanted to honor them in this donation program.
I want to talk about strategy for a moment because a lot of people watching and listening run small businesses, right? And if you're running a business right now, this is a crisis for 99% of businesses. Cash flow is stopped, right? I mean, how would you even begin to think about how to mitigate the situation? I mean, when you have faced crisis in the past, what have you done that has helped you at least to kind of reorient and reframe what's happening to just get things under control?
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is, I think that we feel, fortunate that we're able to continue to work. There's a lot of companies that are completely shut down. There's job loss, there's all kinds of things. We haven't had to deal with that part of it. And so I feel for the businesses that are going through this, right? Whenever possible, I think if you put your people first, ways to be resilient in your business, then you sort of open the floodgates and people start, thinking about innovative ways to continue. And for us, this is just for us and for some other companies that are able to do this, we open those floodgates and people are doing amazing things. Our child care teachers are calling the parents and having like story time. And, we've got all different people working in different ways It's this idea of just allowing innovation and resilience to flourish in this situation, but putting your people first is primary. And then community, what can you do for your community? Because we can work, we feel this responsibility to, give back to our community even more.
Gary, when you have been in, you've dealt with crises in the past, certainly with this business. And when you think about it from a leadership perspective, how would you, what kind of advice could you give to somebody who is a leader, even if it's a small business, and they're kind of dealing with what's going on right now?
What's helped us are a couple things. One is don't be afraid to ask a question that has no answer. It's off of a Wendell Mad Farmer Manifesto, a poem of his about 4 decades ago. We are asking questions every single day that we don't have an answer to, but you can't be afraid to ask those questions. And then if you don't have an answer today, maybe you will tomorrow. And I can't even count how many of questions we've had to ask that don't have an answer.
What's
the other thing is,
what's an example of a question that is?
Without getting into the kind of stuff that is more on the private side of how we're dealing with employees and all that, but maybe one could be like, what is it going to look like when we go back to the office? When we first step back into the office, when is that going to happen? And what are we going to be walking around with face masks on? And are we going to be social distancing when we're back in the office? And how's it going to work when people, eat? And, we don't have an answer for that right now, but we're talking about it. And we're starting to build scenarios around that, but we just keep asking and and then the other part of it is just being attentive. We have this little 3A thing we call attentiveness, adapt, and act. And it's based off another climbing story that I won't tell. But you have to be hyper attentive to everything every day, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. And if you're attentive to something that comes up, and we get people emailing us saying, have you thought of this? What about this? How come we're not doing this? Then you kind of figure out, then you have to go to how are we going to adapt? And then as soon as you can, take some action and don't sit on things, because we don't have time to sit on things. We've been making decisions where we have to act now or tomorrow. And if we wait 3 days, sorry, we're screwed. So you keep telling people to just keep being attentive, adapt, and take some action.
I'm curious. Obviously you are a bigger company, a much bigger company than a lot of the vast majority of businesses in the United States. But if you think about this crisis, and this is a little bit tricky because it's a sensitive word to use, but as an opportunity to think creatively about what you might look like, or how you might evolve out of this crisis. A lot of businesses may not make it, but it doesn't mean that the entrepreneur or the business owner behind that business has lost their talent, right? If you run a hair salon, you're still a talented person. Your business may not survive, but it doesn't mean that your ability to do something dies too. So I'm wondering, when you think about crisis, are there ways to think about opportunities, or to kind of focus on what it might look like on the other side? How would you, because even with your business, you're going to change. So there are going to be things about even your products that change when we come out the other side of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That may be a question we don't have an answer to.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, to take a shot at it, I think, it does you double down and refocus on the things that matter, right? So if you, for instance, have a business that's not able to continue right now, you keep doubling down on, well, what really matters? Why are we in business? You keep asking yourself, what is the essence of what we're doing? We have a friend whose business is just 100% no income coming in right now. And what she's doing is she's saying, okay, well, why am I in business? I'm in business to, for instance, support mothers and women at work. So she's creating a cohort, about that. and talking to them. What do you guys need right now? How are you doing? So she's finding a way to do her business that way. For us, I think it's refocused us to consider what's really, really important, like taking care of our people, but also how we work, being efficient with our time, being creative, looking at a problem, imagining scenarios that don't exist yet. Like, well, what if this happens? How are we going to react? It's really made us much more nimble in some ways.
Do you have any advice? I mean, I'm just even thinking about for me and other people listening who work with, with small teams, just kind of keeping morale up, because, there are a lot of people, like, I mean, look, I'm lucky. I live with my partner and I've got kids, and so we're okay. We've got their, my kids, or there's activity, my dog, there's activity going
They're
on
adorable.
and each other. And so, but there are lots of people who, are living on their own. And it's not that easy. And I've talked to a lot of people. How do you, with your teams, like, how are you just, I don't know, making sure that, morale is kind of at least at a certain baseline? It's going to be hard because morale has dropped probably across the board, but what are some strategies that you're using to check in on people?
Yeah. Trying to ask them personal questions a little bit, is how are you doing? Like, really, how are you doing? Not just how you doing? Don't really tell me, but no, how are you doing? Right. That goes a long way. That some people are struggling with health issues. Some people are, doing different things that are really difficult. Trying to work and have children next to you is extremely hard sometimes. So, trying to support people on a real human level. I think in business, business isn't really separate from our humanity. It's just all tied together. And this is just a big, magnifying glass on that situation. And so that's one way.
Yeah. But with your team, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Go ahead. Well,
no, go ahead.
That I think when this first happened, it happened, another quote, but it happened slowly and then all at once. It was sort of like, where's this going? Where's this going? Where's this going? And all of a sudden, boom, we're out of the office.
Yeah.
So you've been to our office, how it feels, the culture it feels. You walk around and there's just this energy together. The togetherness brings that energy. So how do you replace that? Well, we haven't. But we are communicating every day with our people. Kit and I send out I send out a Monday email. She sends out a Friday email. On Thursdays, we have an all company Zoom meeting. So we have like 530 people on Zoom while we're giving everybody an update. We have several people in the company give updates on different things we're doing, whether it's our donation program to healthcare workers or there's some fun thing. We read customer letters. We do all this stuff. So there's a community there. People really appreciate that. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, somebody else in the company sends out some communication about whether it's benefits, a change in benefits, or this or that, and really supporting our people and what's going on. And then there's groups getting together and having. We have cooking classes and different things. It kind of sounds corny, but it's working. And I tell you, people are just stepping up. They're just stepping up during this time. It's amazing.
I don't think leaders can lead on their own at this time. I think you really need each other. Anybody in your company, that's our dog.
Our dog.
But you need to rely on people. And even if you have small teams, there's something that each of us can do, right? Like maybe someone's good at something that makes you feel connected, and finding that, whether it's music or cooking or, a story or babysitting your kids for a few minutes while you talk to your wife or, that kind of thing. If you want us to do that, Guy, we can do that.
Thank you.
One of our head of inside communications, Louisa, last week came with this great idea to do a tribute to Bill Withers, Lean on Me, and just ask anybody in the company if they want to film themselves singing part of that song. Oh my gosh. It was amazing.
Tears. So we had all different people from the bakeries, from the office, all in their homes, and some people at the bakeries, the essential workers we have that are still working during this, they were singing. It was just beautiful.
It was just great.
And people were just, that kind of heart connection, right? That human connection.
Yeah.
And it's the little, and that's a little and a big thing that brought people together to kind of confirm as your friend says, the why we're in business, and the purpose of our business. And it is that just confirmed that what happened during this event was, what rose to the top, is the number one thing was like, this is really about people. This is about a long-term journey, but it's about the people that are on the journey that are moving us forward.
All right, guys, we have tons of questions coming in from people watching, and I would shout out everybody watching: Sonia Aguilar in India, California, and Kelly Barker in Dallas, Abby Gerard in Columbus, Vicky Wright, Kaffenberger in St. Louis. We'll get to some more folks who are watching, but I want to get to a couple questions. This is a question from Matthew Arnie, or Arn. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Matthew. He asks, if you were starting now, right? If you were starting Clif Bar now, in this climate, in this economic climate, how would you go about trying to do it? How would you imagine trying to create a business in this situation where where the taps have kind of turned off, right? The cash taps. So, how would you think about doing that?
Ooh. You go ahead. Since
Well, I think if you have a passion for something, and you can see like what I saw when I first came up with Clif Bar, this is the right product at the right time, and this has longevity. Then this may not be the best time, but that doesn't mean you don't start putting things down on paper or experimenting or trying things that when a time is ready, then you can take that first step. And maybe there are a couple first steps right now. Obviously that question is probably not just about starting a nutrition bar company or an energy bar company, but whatever company. Right. Mm-hmm. So, if you got the fire, start stoking the fire.
Yeah.
And just I used to make notes in a book and just note after note after note thinking, what if this happened? What if that? This is like 35 years ago.
Just writing notes constantly. Yeah.
Visualizing.
Opportunity.
I was thinking about this, and I mentioned this in the intro to our upcoming How I Built This episode on Monday. We're doing new episodes every week, and which is, in 5 years, I will be interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs who came up with ideas during this time, because sense, I think people are calling this the great pause, right? The whole world is essentially stopped. And as hard as it is and challenging as it is, it's very weird, uniquely weird moment where we can just think, there's actually space to think. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. When have we ever, I don't remember staying put for a month in one place. I'm usually popping around here and there and here and there. I've had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to just I don't have to go anywhere. So, you find yourself just sitting down and going, okay, well, what about, thinking, introspection,
mm-hmm.
and all the possibilities, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. This is a question from about supply chain, which I think is interesting. How are you dealing? This is from Maria Antonia Dolman. How are you dealing with your supply chain, and are you looking ahead to, because you rely on nuts and on oats and on a variety of ingredients that mostly domestic but some imported. So how are you kind of dealing with the possibility the supply chain will be disrupted?
Yeah.
That's another question that we don't have a full answer to, because we don't know how this, we're hoping that we're on getting close to, it's still going to be probably months, and we don't know about transportation and supply chain and so on, and workers. And so we right now we're good, and because we're in that essential category. So we're not super worried about supply chain, but we're daily being daily attentive to it, and always kind of asking our suppliers, like, we're good, right? We're good, right?
Yeah. And we do have our procurement team, our supply chain, that is one of we have every morning we meet together with, we call it the COVID-19 task force. So we're meeting task force made up of, our manufacturing lead, our legal team, our HR team, our community team. We're doing that, and our communications team, and we're doing that so we can keep track of all of these things. And so we have teams under them that are tracking supply chain, all the Clif Bars that the stores are gonna want in the future, and sort of balancing that out. Is this a big rush, or is this gonna happen? And then, what level are we gonna be at, and all that. So, yeah.
Every company, every business has had to adapt to a different supply chain. Marketing, is this the right time to market? With our marketing campaigns, I don't know. It seems a little like, I think people are thinking about other stuff. So that's where our focus right now is, to invest in our giving program, and we're not afraid to talk about it. We don't, we're doing it because that's been our business model for years, is to give back. But it's interesting that this is the first time that our business model is put to kind of a full test. Like, it's easy when you're like, not easy, but so we have this 5 bottom lines business model, sustaining our business, our brands, our people, our community, and our planet. And it's worked. But now we're in the crisis trying to keep this model alive.
Right.
We're not just a successful company over here supporting our community and giving thousands of hours of community service and all that. No, we're in the fire, and we're trying to continue keeping those values intact and living by those values. So far so good, but it has not been easy.
Yeah. And I mean, to that point about marketing and about reaching customers, right? I mean, right now, and there certainly was a surge in purchases of things like Clif Bars, while people were kind of preparing to hunker down. But, we may face 12, 18 months of negative growth, right? And there's also always a possibility that will affect things like food too down the road, or certain foods, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get to, this is a question not necessarily related to the crisis, but it's a great question. It's from Gabe Williams, who writes in, and I'd love to hear your answer to this. Do you have a favorite mistake, or was there a mistake that you made that actually ended up being beneficial to your business?
Right now?
Or
anytime?
In general?
In general.
Oh, we made lots of mistakes.
We know how to make mistakes.
Just a bad product launch, or something that you put
failed.
Failed royally.
Yeah, what are we thinking? I mean, now in retrospect, but then it's too late to go back and fix that product. And let's not get into the mistakes, but yes, we've probably had, if you were to look at all the products we've had over the years, it's probably in the hundreds or so different ones. And many people wouldn't even, if I held up 5 of those products, people like, wow, you guys did that. But they just didn't. They didn't work. And, but we've had some success too. So, like they say, 1 out of 10 works. I think we're maybe a little better than that. And that's just, what were we really listening to the consumer at that point? And probably sometimes the answer's been no.
Got it. All right. There's a question from Claire Murashima. She asks about you mentioned that the bars are going to healthcare workers. And she asks, well, how can a small company that doesn't have the resources or financial stability of a Clif Bar to give away their products, what are some thoughts or ideas you might have about ways they can contribute?
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's a really good question.
That is a great question. I mean, I don't know if we have the answer for everything like that, but there's always some way you can give, whether it's supporting someone who can, that it's something that it's an introspective question, I think, rather than us giving the answer to. It's kind of like everybody can help in some way. Maybe it's a word of support. Maybe it's an encouragement. Maybe it's a note you send to the hospital workers. Maybe it's, sending someone just a little love package. There's always ways we can help, and it's kind of the individual to figure out how they can do that. Writing a song.
I saw a really cool thing. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, because I think sometimes the transmission is delayed. But I saw, I took a little walk in our neighborhood, and I saw just a sign that somebody printed out, and it said they were organizing volunteers in the neighborhood to pick up medicine and groceries for elderly people, and it just said, that's so cool. That's so awesome. Because we don't always. Now we truly are living in a bubble, right? We're all in sort of shut in. So I thought that was really cool. I know a lot of people are getting involved in ways to get food distributed to people, and getting involved in volunteer organizations. There's a big sort of boom in people reaching out and using their marketing skills and their skills in software development and in project management. I know my wife Hannah is involved in a group that is getting food, pairing restaurants with healthcare workers. So there's a lot of really cool things that are happening out there, and ways that people are actually using their skills to contribute, right? Even though it's not face to face, they're doing it through Slack or through video chats. But it's actually been really interesting to see.
No, it's a really, really good question. Kit has a good Mother Teresa quote that I'm going to have her say in a second. But it's I mean, it really is. You just do what you can. If we're lucky, we can give millions of bars out. Okay, so we're doing that. But if you, whatever you do, even in a small, she's writing down the quote now. Even if it's just a small thing, it can make a huge difference, even to one person's life. And the quote is.
No, I'm not going to say the quote because I can't remember it exactly.
Oh, it's not. It's something about the great. It's the small. It's the small things with love. It's the great.
Oh yeah. Gary, you put me on the spot.
It's about not just doing the big great things. It's doing the small things
with great love.
With great love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think to that point too. This is the time where that you can do things with your business, but you can also do things for your family. My mom turned 97 last week, and I baked her a lemon chiffon cake. And fortunately, she's not in a senior living facility. She's with my sister, so I could take it to their home. We at a distance sang her happy birthday. She kept wondering why we had these masks on our face and what was wrong with us. But it was like just stuff like that. So that's like on a really personal level. There's a way you can do something. Yeah. It's really.
Yeah. That's awesome. I just want to shout out a couple people because we got to wrap up pretty soon, but we haven't been able to get to all the questions. But thank you to Joshua Bergen in Crofton, Maryland, Ariane Tudor in Boulder, Mary Lee in Alabama, Hope Meadows in Ann Arbor, Anna Manzoro in Spain, Tucker Ryan in the Maldives. Wow, thank you. Maria Antonio Dolman watching from Milan in Italy. I hope you guys are doing well there. I know it's been really tough there. You guys have a connection to Italy. You spent a lot of time there. Justin Standish in Nashville, Jody Nelson Blair Bear in Thousand Oaks, Lige Razalan in San Diego, and others. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of you. Thank you so much for your questions. Before I let you guys go, I just have a couple of quick announcements that I want to make for people listening. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. This Friday, I know you guys are huge fans. Simon Sinek will be joining us right where you guys are. I know you are huge fans of his work, Infinite Game and Start With Why, and I think you just watched a webinar that Simon did yesterday and answering your questions and talking about resiliency. Next week is Food Week. So this is sort of a teaser for that, guys. Every single day next week, we are going to have a live conversation at 12 noon Eastern right here with a different food person. Here's who we're going to have. On Monday, Kyle Connaughton, the chef of Single Thread, a Michelin 3-star restaurant in Healdsburg, California. Tuesday, the 21st, Alice Waters, the legendary Alice Waters will join us. Wednesday, Daniel Hume, chef of 11 Madison Park, will be here talking about how they have transformed their Michelin 3-star restaurant to deliver food to anybody who needs it. On Thursday, we've got Christina Tosi of Milk Bar. On Friday, Samin Nusrat, author of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, will be with us. And then a special happy hour edition with Jose Andres. All next week, an entire food week, talking about the food industry and the things that people are doing and how restaurants are coping and pivoting and shifting and thinking creatively. So I'm so excited for that. We have a new episode of How I Built This week. It's Sweet Green, so another food company. It's a really cool story. We have an update from the founders just a couple days ago, talking about how they're coping with the situation. Tomorrow on your podcast feed, on the How I Built This podcast feed, we're releasing last week's live episode with David Neeleman and Tristan Walker. A lot of announcements. Oh my God. Anyway, we've got a brand new, we got a lot of stuff going on. So stand by for it. Before I let you guys go, Gary and Kit, in 5 years, when we talk about this crisis and we look back on it, or let's say 10 years, what is the thing that, I don't know, you hope that you can say about how you responded or how you reacted or how you shifted what you did because of this crisis?
Yeah,
I'll try one.
You try one.
I'm gonna say I'll go back to Bill Withers. Lean on me.
Yeah.
It was leaning on our people.
Yeah, and I hope that we can say that we did things out of love.
Yep.
Awesome. Gary Erickson, Kit Crawford of Clif Bar, thank you so much for being with us, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you. Hope to see you
great.
in person soon.
Yeah.
And your family.
Yeah.
Give them our best.
Yeah.
And thanks to all of you.
Appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you listening and watching. And we'll see you here on Friday.